What's up, Gamer Nation? Heretic here. I bring to you a fantastic little gem called Salt and Sanctuary. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this game for about a year now, with good reason too, because it reminds me of a very familiar game and a very popular game that you might be aware of. Dark Souls. Yeah, that's right. Because this game is basically it's a game that pays homage to that game. As you're familiar, Dark Souls is a very challenging game. It was it was pretty low key back in 2008, 2009 when it first came out, and I am a tremendous fan of those games. Those games changed my thinking on video games about what a video game could do in terms of presentation and storytelling and mechanics. And this game made by SCA Studios is basically paying respect to that game by making its own low-budget version of the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne games. In fact, I would go so much as to say that this is an almost two-dimensional unofficial remake or sequel to those games, even though it's not. It's definitely not. The developers, SCA Studios, currently employ, last I heard, 2 people. Yes, 2 people helped make this game what it is. And as you can see, there are a lot of Dark Souls and Demon Souls influences here throughout, almost to a fault. And I think that's what holds the game back. Because even though first of all, I commend them and applaud them for giving us what they created here. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, as anybody would say. But I think they flattered from software studios too much on their Souls franchise here. They just take too many things from the Souls franchise and from the Bloodborne franchise, and it's almost a one-for-one copy, I would say. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for original work and new ideas and mechanics that have been used before, but I would have preferred something a little bit more original in this game, other than just a one-for-one retread of the Souls games. Even though this game is fantastic too, I think it's very strong, it's very deep. There's a lot of experimentation, and that's basically where the fault, its biggest strength and its biggest fault is, I would say, is in the one-for-one copying and influences and cues that it takes from the Souls series. But enough bitching. What is this game about? Well, like I said, if you've seen what the Souls franchise is like, then you pretty much know what to expect here. This is just a 2D translation of those games unofficially, because this is a new developer, this is a new IP. But the world here is set in a fantastical location. There are fantastical enemies that you will fight, magic, creepy, grotesque monsters, dudes in armor. There's a lot of it's a downtrodden world that you're thrown into, and you basically choose through the character creation different classes. There's chef, there's paladin, there's your knight, there's your hunter. All of which, again, I hate going back over this, but they're all reminiscent of the other franchises from the Souls games. And I hate to be that guy who keeps comparing, but that's what it is. You'll see a lot of very familiar classes. All of them have extensive. It adds a very extensive replayability to the game, as these classes they do have depth. They do have. It takes a certain amount of skill to get accustomed to how each of them move. Each of the equipment and weapons that they use. The equipment will range from swords to crossbows and guns, and hell, even a frying pan if you want it. There are a lot of quirks about this game, and I think it gives the game great personality. These classes, you'll want to walk through the game to experiment with them, and I believe the customization is the strongest point of the game. And second would be the location of the game. The location of the game, I forgot what the main land what we're playing in is, But I was hoping that the game would give us, it does give us multiple locations, but I think the locations in this game, they do try to pull off that Souls feel, and while some of it does harken back to those games, I think the environments could have been more diverse. And again, the biggest the nitpick I would say would be translating those games into a two-dimensional plane, and I think it does not work well here, because in a lot of these locations, I would say 90% of the game, there are these two-dimensional platforming sections where you just press X and your character's just jumping all over the place, instead of, you know, putting something more meaningful and memorable from location to location. But each location is just, it felt like an unnecessary jumping puzzle platformer. I just think it felt unnecessary for the type of gameplay that it offered, which would be tactical third-person positioning and fighting. And I just did not like the platforming aspects. Some of these sections force you to fight. A lot of these sections force you to fight and platform and jump around at the same time, and that's just, it does not work. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened, but that's just one of the weak points in the game. Even though this game is still worth buying and checking out, I would say the platforming just does not work. I did not like it. I wish they'd put something else in its place. And they do add in another mechanic with screwing around with gravity, turning some of these areas upside down to traverse them a completely new way. And I thought that was refreshing. And the progression of these games, these sections are nice. They have different backdrops, but at the same time, it's two-dimensional. You're either going left or right or up or down, and that's where the layout of the level starts to they start to blur together, and they become slightly repetitive. As for the combat, like I said, this is a fun part of the game, but it's not pulled off as well as it should have been. Obviously, they're trying to recreate that physicality of combat that the Dark Souls games have, and sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, it does feel satisfying to, you know, brutally hack away and cause, you know, extreme damage to your enemies, and it is satisfying sometimes, but sometimes it just does not work. Like, I mean, it does work, but on this two-dimensional plane, it's hard to gauge which attacks can land for you and for the enemy, and it takes a lot of this part takes the most experimentation, because if you die, you'll have to reset at the nearest checkpoint and run through all those ridiculous jumping sections again, and that's the only reason why combat would be annoying, is because if you fail at these sections, they would send you back and you have to do all that jumping. But the biggest problem here is gauging on the two-dimensional plane if these attacks will actually land. And there's a lot of diversity in the fighting, first and foremost, which is great. Again, replayability, experimentation, all that good shit. But it's connecting with you and the enemy that felt uneven to me, you know? Especially with this one fight with this dragon that I had. I thought this is where I stop in the game, because this shit is just gonna frustrate me and I'm gonna be here for hours. But no, all I had to do was jump up and none of his attacks would land. See, that unevenness, well, I'm not sure because of the two-dimensional plane. I'm not sure which attacks could connect. But other than that, the connections between you and your enemies, landing blows and whatnot, I feel it's satisfying, but at the same time it's uneven and it could get frustrating for some, especially when it costs you like 5 minutes of walking and annoying ass jumping. So this being one of the smaller indie titles, but still somewhat enjoyable, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. So overall, the gameplay is solid. Like I said, if you're a fan of the Souls games, you will feel right at home with this game. Everything almost feels to a fault, once again, just about one-to-one. I feel that this is the game's greatest failing, in my opinion. This game is so caught up with, not ripping off Dark Souls or anything, but paying them a little bit too much respect by copying all their systems, leaving messages in a bottle, starting the game off with a boss fight that you're supposed to lose, the physicality and the toughness of the enemies and the oppressive world that you're set in. I just think that there could have been a little bit more originality, losing your salt just like souls to an enemy. You saw that in Bloodborne. I think that they should have pushed the boundaries just a bit instead of being like a fan Dark Souls game. But this, in my opinion, this game stands out. It stands on its own just fine for 17 bucks on the PlayStation Store right now. I think with the mechanics that this game presents, this game will give you a good 30 hours if you choose to stick with it. And let's not forget, this is a Souls-inspired game, and it will be tough. It will be a tough trek, a lot of experimentations. You will have to learn. If you're not familiar with those games, you're going to have to learn by yourself or, look up some help online. But this game will give you a pretty solid investment of at least 30 hours for $17. So overall, Salt and Sanctuary, it was very enjoyable, but, I think this game is good enough to stand on its own. I don't think they need any more Salt and Sanctuary sequels unless they have more original ideas other than just, taking aspects from the Souls game. I really hope that if they choose to go the sequel route, they choose to be more creative, and not just be like a second-rate homage to another superior game. I'm sorry, I know this game was created by two people, a husband and a wife, I believe, and I applaud them for their good work. I certainly enjoyed my time with this game, and I hope other people try it out too. This is like a stepping stone towards Dark Souls 3, and it's just good to know that those games are having a positive effect. Hell, we got a good game here, Salt and Sanctuary, because of those games, right? And this is a strong offering from SKA Studios, and I've seen some of their work, and I hope you guys look up some of their old games. They look interesting. I haven't got a chance to try them, but this is a game worth looking into if you like challenging games. And if I were to give this game a rating, I would probably give this a I want to be generous here with an 8 out of 10, because once again, this game could be a little bit more original, but it does pull off its mechanics well, as in it does respect to those mechanics that were in the Souls games and the Bloodborne games and the Demon Souls games. So yeah, 8 pouches of salt out of 10. That'll do it for that review. Updates to my channel, like I said, I have a lot of videos to share with you guys. I just wanted to get this little indie title out there because I think this game needs more exposure. But yes, I will definitely be covering more hardcore games. There's a lot of games coming out in the next few months. I hope I have time to cover them all, because like I said, I get my hands in all types of games. Oh yeah, and of course I will be it's gonna take a while, but I will also be buying Dark Souls 3 and covering that for you guys. And if you know anything about those games, oh my god, it's gonna take a while to get an in-depth review. And but I will have my first impression videos up. I want to dig back into some other tips and tricks videos, just to satiate you guys for a while. I appreciate all the support. I hope this kind of opened your eyes about indie titles and the quality that they can bring for the price. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and this is Heretic signing off.